A red blood cell named Sec1 runs with oxygen in his hands and he comes across a white blood cell named Hack1 fighting an ugly-looking virus. She clashes her sword against him and even manages to stab him. Sec1 whines like a loser and asks her what they are even working for since they keep working and working. The virus makes a sneaky jump on Hack1, so she stabs him again and tells Sec1 that they still have to keep working no matter what. It all started when a red blood cell supervisor welcomed all the new blood cells who had just transformed from novice erythroblasts and told all the new cells to work together for the health of the body. All the cells were then shown a video in which they were shown the blood vessels which the workers will use to carry oxygen and different types of other cells as well. They were all told about white blood cells who eliminate foreign substances and killer T cells who eliminate those cells that get infected by viruses. They also saw macrophages, chicks who clean up the body, and a group of platelets who work to repair damaged blood vessels. Their supervisor then told them about various cells who specialize in different organs, and a special stomach cell also welcomed all the new blood cells in the video. The cells all get divided into various groups for their on-job training, and on the way a friendly red blood cell named Sec2 chit-chats with Sec1. They all meet up with their seniors who tell them to start working from the get-go rather than doing training, and they explain that the main body is low on manpower and time, so they need to keep delivering oxygen. Soon everyone gathers in front of the aortic valve, which dramatically opens up and all the red blood cells go on with their work. The senior yells at them to keep running till they drop dead, and soon Sec1 finds himself lost in the body. A group of platelets rudely yell at him to get out of their way, and soon Sec1 arrives at the stomach where he meets up with the stomach cell supervisor. His supervisor yells at him for being late and doesn't listen to any of his reasons. When Sec1 brings up the introductory video, stomach supervisor reveals that the video is pretty old and that the body has deteriorated since then due to fatigue, lack of sleep and excessive eating and drinking, due to which they all have to work tirelessly too. Sec1 goes on his way and he reaches a side area where a lady cell yells at him for not bringing oxygen to her area. He tells her that he has been ordered to deliver oxygen to main vital organs first, and another senior senpai reasons with the lady cell that she will soon get a fresh supply of oxygen. Afterwards senpai tells Sec1 that he was just lying and that the only way to live is to just keep working without any hope. They both come across a blood vessel which seems clogged and Sec1 slips, which leads him to spill an oxygen carton. They both spot a group of guys called LDL guys who run away instantly, and Red Senpai explains that LDL dudes are bad cholesterol guys who illegally deposit cholesterol cells to the blood vessels, which can even clog the vessels. He explains that due to high stress of the body, the blood vessels can get bumpy, which leads to slow transport of oxygen, and when Sec1 asks him whether the body will be alright, Blood Senpai tells him to just focus on the job and to not worry about the body. Soon Sec1 finishes one whole round around the body and Blood Senpai tells him to rest before starting the second round. Just when Sec1 slumps down, another senior with the constipated looking face appears and yells at him for being so incompetent. He reminds him that the body cannot afford its cells to rest, and Blood Senpai tries to defend Sec by reminding the constipated senpai that they had it much easier when they were rookies. Sec1 decides to step up his non-existent game by resuming his job, and he starts his second round with Blood Senpai. Just when they are crossing a blood vessel, suddenly a suspicious gas fills the blood vessel and constipated senpai plus his friends start to choke on the gas. Blood Senpai stops Sec1 from jumping into the gas, and he explains that it's carbon monoxide gas which can bind with the hemoglobin present within the red blood cells to stop them from delivering any oxygen to the body. The top management gets a report that some kind of toxin has invaded the body and that acetylcholine receptors present within the brain are not working properly. In the meanwhile, all the senior red cells turn into carboxyhemoglobin zombies and start attacking the healthy red blood cells. Suddenly a bunch of bacterias named pneumococci appear behind the zombie red blood cells and start beating the crap out of the zombie blood cells. Since their job is to invade the body, Sec1 and Blood Senpai decide to make a run for it to save their lives, but just then a white blood cell named Hack1 appears. She starts beating up the germs, and Blood Senpai tells Sec1 that they should resume their duty. He in return argues that they cannot possibly continue in such dangerous circumstances, but Blood Senpai reminds him that the purpose of their lives is to transport oxygen to the body, otherwise the body cells will die due to necrosis. He tells Sec1 to go to the lungs while he carries Sec1's oxygen and rushes into the carbon monoxide gas to make his way to the brain. He starts turning into carbon monoxide, but he doesn't give up and keeps running. Sec1 decides to go after him, but Hack1 stops him and tells him to calm down. Later she takes him to the body and shows him the lungs where the carbon monoxide entered from. She explains that the body has smoked a cigarette after 10 years, due to which the toxin was spreading through the body and that the danger is just starting. One day, Sec 1 gets a hectic delivery schedule from his senior, and he also comes across Sec 2, who is getting scolded by a senior. The senior then gives Sec 2 some more work on top of his routine work, which really overwhelms him. Later, Sec 1 comes across a macrophage chick who looks pretty from the above but deadly from her bloody dress. She drags a bacteria's body behind her and looks exhausted. When she crosses Sec 1, she almost attacks him as well, but when she notices that he is just a weak little red blood cell, she stops and goes on her way. Sec 1 then takes his delivery to the mucosal cells in the oral activity, but when he reaches the cavity, he discovers that some of the cells are injured and look burnt. The mucosa cells in the oral activity are toasted and roasted due to some mouth cells which the body got through stress or fatigue. Sec 1 tries to communicate with a mucosa cell, but he gets no response in return. His manual tells him that his top priority is to deliver oxygen at any cost, which means that he has to get his receipt stamped by the mucosa cell, so he takes his receipt out. His receipt ends up burning, and he thinks to himself that he cannot just think about his job only. Just then a mucosa cell warns him that a mouth ulcer has ruptured, so he should run away. A string of ugly-looking bacteria appear and surround Sec 1, but just then a few white blood cells appear to take them on. Hack 1 and her group of white Powerpuff Girls take on the bacteria and kills them. The girls then assess Sec 1's looks, and suddenly a bacteria jumps on them from behind. The white cells take him on, and this time the girls start eating the bacteria as if he is some gourmet meat. When they are finished, suddenly water bursts inside from the walls, and Hack 1 grabs Sec 1 to stop him from drifting with the water. The management observes that the body is gargling the oral activity with water and pyridine, which will act as antiseptic against the mouth bacteria. The water flood subsides, and Hack 1 compliments Sec 1 for hanging on to his oxygen. The white blood cells then go on their way while Sec 1 watches them like a love-stricken fool. Later, once a group of red blood cells are done with their round, they whine to each other about being corporate slaves, and two older cells also join them. Suddenly it starts to rain, so a veteran cell tells them that the rain is actually alcohol, which temporarily improves the blood circulation and dopamine flow, but ultimately the body absorbs more fat due to alcohol consumption.
Okay.
The rookie cells keep up their useless whining, so the veteran cell takes them to the liver to get some refreshment. They all visit the liver, which helps in detoxification and cleansing of the cells plus the organs, and the veteran tells them that they will have a really nice time since it's their first time. He takes them inside a special fancy restaurant which is filled with exotic chicks, and a few of them get seated with some chicks named hepatocytes who are responsible for detoxification. A hepatocyte babe shows a drink called ADH to Sec 1, and she explains that the drink helps detoxify the cells from the effects of the alcohol. The veteran cell acts like a big old pervert as he makes a hepatocyte feed him the drink, and he even scolds the others to let him live his life since he has to keep working all day. Sec 1 recalls how the blood senpai gave up his life, and all around him the other cells take the DH drink. Soon enough black smoke starts to come off of the red blood cells, and a hepatocyte explains to Sec 1 that ADH actually converts the alcohol in their body to acetaldehyde, which is released through the black smoke. She then shows him a display of another fancy-looking drink called ALDH that converts the acetaldehyde into acetic, which ultimately gets transformed into water and carbon dioxide. The hepatocyte hands everyone a glass of ALDH and tells them to raise the glass to detoxify themselves once and for all. As everyone raises a glass, Sec 1 keeps recalling how his senior cells gave up their lives for work, and he thinks that they don't deserve to have such fun and that they shouldn't forget their suffering. He throws down his glass, and when his hepatocyte steps forward, he yells at her that the internal organ cells are all elite cells who don't have to face any trouble, while the red blood cells have to put their lives in danger only. The veteran cell throws his drink on Sec 1 and calls him a bad drunk. He leads him to a side room where another worker tells the hepatocyte to rest for a while. She reminds him that the other hepatocytes have been badly affected by the acetaldehyde toxins, due to which they have to keep working hard. Due to the excessive drinking, the body's liver becomes fatty, due to which hepatocytes can suffer a lot. The hepatocyte reminds her friend that all of them have to bravely face the red blood cells who daily risk their lives to deliver oxygen. The veteran cell tells Sec 1 that there isn't any cell in the body whose task is easy, and Sec 1 confides in him that he actually ran away from his job and couldn't even work properly. The veteran cell consoles him, and later all the cells get ready to leave once they have all detoxified themselves. To their surprise, they notice that the veteran cell has passed away in the arms of a looking hepatocyte babe, and the pink hepatocyte thanks him for all his years of service. They take him to an area called sinusoid, where a killer cell called Kupfer cell takes the veteran cell and devours its body. The others explain that the nutrients from the body of any dead red blood cell are broken down and released into the body again to fuel it. Of course, Sec 1 cries like a baby, and later he bids his pink hepatocyte farewell.
Oh my God!
Still, he and his friend feel a bit intoxicated, and another cell tells them that they may have a bit of alcohol left in their system, due to which they are feeling nausea and headache. Another day, the management discusses that the body is soon going to be in arousal, and they make an announcement to all the cells to prepare them. Sec 1 hands over oxygen to some NPC cells when he hears an announcement calling all the red blood cells to a specified location, and the elderly cell wishes him good luck. Everyone gathers at the suspicious-looking place even if they have deliveries pending, and the speaker tells them that the body is going to be in a state of arousal for reproductive purposes, so all the cells are required to cause an erection by engulfing the corpora cavernosa. Sec 1 greets a senior cell and discusses with him that he has been to corpora cavernosa many times, but he has never caused an erection. He recalls how the corpora walls are very narrow, and his senior explains that once they have all entered the corpora, their job is to push the wall open to increase pressure so that an erection is caused. The senior warns all of them that it's a very grueling task since they have to maintain the pressure, and wishes them good luck. Sec 1 thinks that he has been given a mighty great task because his efforts will help the body leave behind descendants. As he lines up with the other cells, a few senior cells push him down and try to take his position, so he reminds them that their seniority doesn't matter since he delivers oxygen just like everyone else. They ask him whether he has even helped in an erection before, and when they learn the truth, they make fun of his little virgin 4-eye self. They keep belittling him, and just then Hack 1 steps in to remind them that experience doesn't matter. The seniors tell her to mind her own business, so she takes out her sword and stalks the senior till he is backed against the wall. She then stabs a small ugly-looking Pseudomonas bacteria lurking on the wall, and the senior falls down on his butt in fear. Hack 1's minions ask Sec 1 about his plans, and they offer to take him to Testes since they have to patrol in the same area. They take him to the testes where immature sperm cells called spermatogonia are sleeping, and one of their caretakers, Sertoli cell, receives the oxygen from Sec 1. She tells Sec 1 that the baby spermatogonia mature to become sperm cells, and they then meet the ova, after which life is born. Sec 1 realizes that his job is really important in order for life to continue, and that he should give his best to make an erection. Later he parts his ways with the white blood cells, and Hack 1 tells him that they should all be ready to risk their lives if it means that new life can be born. Feeling fully motivated, Sec 1 returns to his group, and just as nitric oxide gas gets released, he runs with full effort to the corpora to cause an erection along with the group of other red blood cells. They all rush inside, where they get asked to push against the walls, which will ultimately result in relaxing the corpora veins, and all the cells give their best as they push against the walls. A fatso blood cell pushes against the ball, which finally helps them successfully relieve some pressure. Once stage 1 of erection is cleared, they all run to the backside, where they find that the corpora veins have finally loosened up, and slowly they each start entering the corpora veins one by one. At the headquarters, trouble brews as it gets reported that the cyclic GMP level is not rising, due to which the smooth muscles of the reproductive organ are starting to tense again. The corpora veins lose their flexibility and they start to constrict, due to which all the red blood cells start to get pushed out. At the headquarters, they discuss that the nerves aren't sending proper signals to the organ, due to which the erection isn't fully happening, and that it may be caused due to stress. The term erectile dysfunction gets discussed, while Sec 1 discovers that all of his friends have been beaten down due to the corpora veins constrictions. Sec 2 finds him, and their senior tells them to retreat for now, but Sec 1 remains rooted in his place. He argues with Sec 2 that they cannot give up now, but Sec 2 thinks that their job is done, otherwise they will get crushed by the corpora veins. He reminds him that they have to help the body do all the dirty deeds, and he starts to pull apart the corpora. Sec 2 joins him as well, and they notice that to their surprise the corpora veins are starting to relax a little. In the headquarters, the whole erection mission is about to be abandoned, but just then GMP levels start to increase, and it turns out that the body has actually taken to help in the process. All the red blood cells rush and join Sec 1 and 2, and they give their best to push inside corpora veins. Everybody celebrates in the headquarters as the body achieves full erection mode finally, and all the sperm cells receive an announcement to prepare themselves for ejaculation. Somebody tightens the sphincter, and finally the body ejaculates, due to which all the sperm cells rush out into the world to meet ovum or to get busted. Everybody celebrates in the headquarters while the white blood cells get motivated to do their job as well, but suddenly something attacks them. All the red blood cells celebrate as well, and a senior tells Sec 1 that it's highly possible that their activity was useless since the body may have done all the activity just for some pleasure. Sec 1 starts to feel hopeless, but just then Hack 1 arrives and tells them that a gonoccocci has entered the body due to the recent pleasure activity. A white blood cell chick faces an ugly-looking tentacle monster gonoccocci, and he easily takes her down. At the same time, Hack 1 warns the red blood cells about the gonoccocci bacteria that causes the disease gonorrhea, and tells them to evacuate the place since they will try to hold the bacteria off. The red blood cells go on their way while the gonococcus heads inside the body while he keeps muttering that he is lonely. Inside the body, Sec1 assures another cell that the white blood cells will take care of the gonococcus, and the cell warns him to stay cautious since gonococcus cells are known to multiply rapidly. Sec1 then comes across a group of nervous platelets who don't want to work because there is gonococcus inside the body, and another platelet yells at them for being a bunch of losers. Sec1 also assures them that the white cells will take care of the bacteria. This assures the platelets who go on their way, and in the meanwhile Hack1's platoon takes on a bunch of gonococcus. The bacteria take down a number of white blood cells and Hack1 yells at her platoon to retreat. At the white blood cells headquarters, the cells report to their supervisor Babe that the bacteria have invaded the urethra, however they still haven't reached the epididymis. The invasion of epididymis is crucial since it can make the testes swollen, which can lead to all-time sterility for the body by blocking off the sperm cells. The white blood cell supervisor summons all the white blood cells to the lymph node, and Sec1 comes across a group of red blood cells who tell him to change his route to avoid coming across gonococcus. They all discuss the latest war, and just then a group of white blood cells pass near them. Sec2 tells Hack1 that they should be doing their job since they also can't deliver oxygen properly if the white blood cells can't do their job properly. Sec1 tries to tell him to shut his autistic mouth up, but he keeps whining about how unsafe the body is. The white blood cells go on their way, and Sec1 tells him that he was very out of line. All the white blood cells gather at the lymph nodes along with the injured cells, and their supervisor tells them that they have to wage one last battle with the gonococcus at the urethra, or else gonorrhea will soon take over the whole body. The white blood cells all decide to lay down their lives for the sake of this final battle once and for all. In the meanwhile, Sec1 and Sec2 get ordered to deliver oxygen to lower areas where there is gonococcus roaming around, and Sec2 begins to whine, which seems to be his original job. Sec1 thinks about the sacrifice of the white blood cells for the sake of the body's defense, and he agrees to go deliver the oxygen along with the Sec2. All the white blood cells head to the battle, and an injured cell begs her captain to let her join the battle too. Their captain tells everyone that the rate at which the bacteria is growing is faster than their phagocytosis rate, which means that the body cannot defeat gonorrhea naturally and that they are going to lose the battle. She reminds everyone that they still have to fight their battles no matter what, and she tells the injured cell that a lot of them have to take care of other cells as well, so she should protect others in the meanwhile. They all leave the injured cell behind and head to battle. Sec1 and Sec2 also arrive at the urethra, and they come across a group of defeated white blood cells lying on a pool of pus. Pus is produced in the body due to accumulation of dead cells plus bacteria and debris, and just then a gonococcus attacks them from behind. A fallen white blood babe takes him on and stabs him. She then falls unconscious, and a phagocyte catches her. The phagocyte, who is responsible for cleaning the dead cells plus bacteria, tells Sec1 that they should keep moving and that it's hell in the arterial PP. Meanwhile, the battle of ugly versus chicks rages on, and the white blood cells struggle to defeat the bacteria due to their quick regeneration powers. The bacteria engulf white blood chicks like a gourmet meal, and a bunch of them even surround their captain. They also surround Hack1, and at the same time Sec1 carries on with his transport duty along with Sec2. They both reach the battle site and discover that Captain and Hack1 are almost at death's door, as they look like they are going to be devoured by the tentacle monsters. The gonococcus taunts the white blood cells that nobody cares for them and that they are fated to die in dirty pus. The white cells yell at Sec1 and 2 to run away, and even Sec2 starts to head back. Sec1 yells at the gonococcus that the pus is not dirty since it's a proof that the white blood cells fought for their sake and for the sake of the body. He yells that he is going to transport his oxygen no matter what, and suddenly a bright light illuminates everything. The bacteria's thick ugly skin starts to vanish, and the white blood cells HQ gets a report that the body has delivered the antibiotic penicillin through the esophagus. Penicillin works by removing the bacterial cell wall, which makes it easier for the white blood chicks to kill them. The tide of the battle turns as the white cells start killing more and more bacteria, and the captain orders Hack1 to take the red blood cells to the urethra to deliver oxygen. She decides to stay back while Hack1 and another cell fight their way through a bunch of bacteria just so that the red blood cells can do their job. Afterwards, the white blood supervisor announces that the body has been cured of gonorrhea, and they all bid farewell to the fallen bodies of white blood cells who lost their lives. Their bodies get released from the body via the urethra in the form of pus, and Sec2 also apologizes to Hack1 for underestimating their job. At the same time, the supervisor of T cells comments that the white blood cells are really pathetic at their job and that it's time for T cells to step forward now. The helper T cell announces that since the white cell forces are weak, the killer T cells will eliminate all the foreign substances invading the body. A group of thick-looking T cells patrol through the body and take on puny invaders while the helper T cell yells at them to get their job done. Meanwhile, Sec1 delivers oxygen to a side cell and the lady tells him that he is looking more gallant than before. Sec1 informs her that he has been feeling more confident in his job and she reminds him that the side cells are still not getting enough oxygen. He then takes some oxygen to the hair follicle site and the hair matrix cell orders him to place the oxygen at a side. He notices that the hair matrix cells keep dividing and the cells tell him that their job is to keep dividing to provide nutrition to the body even if the body is in stress. They all collectively help maintain the hair and its nutrition, and at one point when a hair matrix cell notices whitening on one of the hair, he calls over another oldie cell called hair pigment cell to color the hair up. The hair pigment cell or melanin cell colors the hair patch black and Sec1 once again thinks that there are all kinds of different jobs inside the body. Once Sec1 is done with his delivery, he heads out only to find Hack1 doing some exercise. Of course he leers at her like a certified pervert and she tells him that he is distracting her. She tells him that white blood cells are really short-handed due to their recent battle due to which she has to get back soon, and she even thanks him for his words of encouragement during their last meet-up. Soon a group of killer T cells appear and they tell Hack1 that they have to go into every fight now thanks to their pathetic battle with the gonorrhea. Hack1 doesn't get offended by this since she realizes that their short-handedness is putting a lot of strain on killer T cells. The killer T cells then go on their way after wasting the time to chit-chat with Hack1, and at the same time the helper T cell supervisor gets a report that there is an invasion in the navel cavity. He orders to dispatch the killer T cells and his colleagues remind him that the killer T cells are just returning from another job so they must be tired. He doesn't give a crap about his minions and instead he preaches that the killer T cells are the body's last line of defense so they will keep working no matter what. Even though he collapses due to exhaustion too, he still keeps ranting like a lunatic on crack about the superiority of killer T cells. The killer T cells then march through the body in a zombie-like state and the passerby platelets get scared of them. Sec1 and 2 take the oxygen near the crown where they find that the vessels are clogged with bad cholesterol. Just then the helper T cell announces to all the cells near the crown that there has been some trouble but the killer T cells have been mobilized to take care of it. The red cells still go inside where they discover that the whole area is on fire and that a hair matrix cell is also knocked out on the floor. They think that some kind of germ or bacteria has entered the area and just then, a fat T cell walks towards them. They ask him to help them out so killer T walks up to the scrawny little hair matrix cell and starts beating the crap out of him. The other cells also start beating up the hair matrix cell and when the pigment cell comes to stop them, they throw him down on the ground as well. The killer cells keep suspiciously chanting that they need to eliminate all foreign substances while the red blood cells beg them to stop their tyranny. Soon hair starts to fall out from the roots and at the same time a dendritic cell rushes to the helper T cell to stop this madness. He comments that the killer T cells may be mistakenly attacking the hair cells instead of cancer cells and the helper T cell announces that they cannot stop their attack since they cannot risk any invasion from cancer cells. The killer T cells keep up their tyranny and the hair keeps falling, which is the case when psychological stress causes the body to attack its own cells. Sec1 recalls white blood cells' noble words about protecting the body and he announces that he is going to deliver oxygen to the hair root to revitalize it. In the meanwhile the helper T cell becomes all loony once again and he decides to release a chemical called cytokine to boost killer T cells' powers. Once the cytokine is released, the killer T cells start to become more buff and Sec1 rushes to get his oxygen delivered. He gathers all the other red blood cells as well to perform such a holy task and just then, a group of random objects roll inside the hair root. The objects called steroids locate the killer T cells and start to shoot lasers at them. The same steroid rolls up to the helper T cell and starts to restrain him. The steroid actually helps restrain the killer T cells whenever they go berserk and soon the steroids immobilize all the hunky-looking T cells. The red blood cells then rush to deliver oxygen to the hair roots and Sec1 tells a killer T cell that he doesn't have to work anymore. The killer T cell breaks down crying because he cannot believe that he has been released from such corporate slavery. The helper T cell also wakes up from his loony attack and he wonders why he was acting so weird. Suddenly, urine starts to rush forth from the urinary tract and it turns red as some red blood cells drown in it. The headquarters get the report that things are going haywire and the supervisor comments that there's nothing that can be done now. After making a delivery, Sec1 complains to Sec2 that he just delivered to the small intestine but they were complaining that there's not enough oxygen. As they both walk through the digestive tract, they notice that there is also dirty secretion in the blood vessels due to dehydration in the body and Sec2 slips on some of the secretion. He pulls Sec1 down too and they both laugh over how stupid they seem. They then visit the kidneys to get washed up and the glomeruli cells welcome them inside. They reside in the nephrons and they are responsible for cleaning the blood cells. Sec 1 and 2 starts to get washed up by the glomeruli chicks, and some seniors scold the glomeruli cells to properly wash them. They remind them that they work hard while the glomeruli cells are useless who do nothing but wash everyone all day. Sec 1 doesn't think this is true, so he tells his worker that he knows they all work really hard to clean blood, especially in the desperate dirty situation that the body is currently in. The glomeruli cell tells Sec 1 that many things are declining in the body and that there has also been a rise in calcium oxalate. She also warns him to be careful when he is passing near the ureter, which is basically the piss tube for the body. After they are both washed up, Sec 1 and 2 leave the kidneys, and Sec 1 comments that they shouldn't put too much pressure on the glomeruli cells. Suddenly they both hear a loud voice, and since they are near the ureter, Sec 1 recall the glomeruli worker's comments. All of a sudden a stone bursts through the ureter wall, and the headquarter gets a report that a 1 centimeter kidney stone has appeared. These stones are made from calcium and oxalate that are released through the kidney's detoxification process. The stone doesn't stop there. In fact, it starts to tear through the ureter wall, and as a result a number of red blood cells get swept inside into the urine. Soon the urine turns red while Sec 1 and Sec 2 keep running to avoid being swept away by the kidney stone. As the stone tears the ureter wall, the body feels an immense amount of pain, and as a result kidney pressure and blood pressure starts to increase as well. Inside the kidney, the supervisor yells at all the glomeruli cells to keep working in silence, so they resume their duties. Once the kidney stone stops moving, Sec 1 decides to push it into the urine so that it can pass through, and seeing his resolve, Sec 1 starts to help him too. Suddenly an endoscopic tube bursts inside the body via the ureter, and it moves towards the ureter. Once it spots the kidney stone, it smashes it into pieces with the help of the laser, and bits and pieces of kidney stone start to flow into the urine. Soon the white blood cells arrive as well, and Hack 1 tells Sec 1 that she will take them all to a safe place. The platelets also arrive to repair the ureter wall that was damaged, and some of them wonder whether the stone will come back. One platelet scolds the others for slacking off, and they all begin working to repair the wall while the white blood cells take the red blood cells to a safe position. On the way, Hack 1 comments that some danger must be coming if so many of the white cells are gathered in the same place. At the same time, a group of germs try to climb up the urethra, which is the piss channel, through the endoscopy tube, and soon they will reach the ureter. The headquarters discuss that it's a very rare case if the bacteria can invade the kidneys through such a SUS technique, and that acute pyelonephritis will happen if they succeed. The white blood cells face off the bacteria at the ureter, and the red cells run away while the white cells attack the germs. Soon they start to become outnumbered, and the macrophages get called as a backup to support them. Everyone in the headquarters discusses that in the worst-case scenario they will have to abandon one kidney since the body can live without one. Soon a number of white blood cells start to get pushed into the urine, due to which the urine gets a white-like appearance. Sec 1 rushes to the glomeruli and tells them to abandon the kidney, but their supervisor yells at them to go back to their work. Sec 1 defends them, and he tries to reason with the supervisor that the glomeruli need some rest as well, but she only tells him not to overstep. A glomeruli chick steps forward and tells the supervisor that they all know that the supervisor is strict on them because she cares, but still they all want to cry sometimes due to too much work. Suddenly a germ bursts forward from the ureter and attacks the glomeruli chick, but the supervisor jumps in between and gets stabbed instead. Hack 1 then takes down the germ and promises Sec 1 that she will try to keep all the foreign invaders down in the ureter. The granny supervisor tells the glomeruli cells that she can finally make it up to them, and as she is dying, she tells everyone to get back to work. She explains that the kidney can't regenerate glomeruli cells, so they all have to keep working, otherwise waste will accumulate in the body. Finally, she gets an Employee of the Year award and passes away. Meanwhile, the battle against the germs carries on, and more germs keep coming in minute after minute. Suddenly a bright lightning zaps all the germs, and an antibacterial drug, quinolone, steps forward, which eradicates the remaining germs. The glomeruli cell asks Sec 1 and 2 to wash up, and they tell her that they will continue their round before coming back for a wash. They both walk away after telling her that she can cry her eyes out over her supervisor if she wants. The glomeruli cells mourn after their supervisor, and in the meanwhile a few senior red blood cells get intoxicated as alcohol runs down on them in the blood vessels. Afterwards, the red blood cells continue to deliver oxygen like always, and they go to deliver some oxygen to the cells where Sec 2 finishes his delivery first. He gets the receipt stamped and decides to take a break before seeing Sec 1 running around tirelessly like always. The cell that got the oxygen decides to use it to make some energy, but the oxygen explodes the moment he tries to use it, and he rushes out of his smoke-filled apartment. Sec 2 tries to help him, but the cell suddenly becomes aged and mentions that it's all Sec 2's fault because it happened due to the oxygen he delivered. A few days later, Sec 2 walks through the streets and he overhears other people talking about the explosion that aged the cell, which was due to ROS or reactive oxygen species, that refers to oxygen that has turned into a highly reactive chemical compound which causes rapid cellular aging. He hears the cells complaining about how they are already not getting enough nutrients, and 2 cells suddenly approach him before blaming him for delivering the ROS oxygen. They start yelling at him for not handling the oxygen properly, which turned it into an ROS, but Sec 1 steps forward to explain that the reason why oxygen turns into ROS is due to the body's declining internal environment caused by things like bad diet, aging or smoking, instead of how the oxygen is handled. He tells them to stop pointing fingers at others so they can all work together to save the body, and the 2 cells realize that they were in the wrong, so they decide to leave. Sec 2 compliments his vast knowledge and Sec 1 replies that it's still not easy to handle the thought that the oxygen they deliver could end up hurting other cells too. They both realize that they need to attend the Rookie Red Blood Cell Award ceremony, so they go there only to see that Sec 1 has been chosen as the top Rookie Red Blood Cell for delivering the most oxygen out of them all. Sec 1 goes up to the stage to take the award while the nearby red blood cells ask Sec 2 about how the 2 are always together, so Sec 2 must be a hotshot too. He tells them that it is not true and recalls how he ran away last time, along with how he has always been trying to run away even though he is always by Sec 1's side. Sec 1 receives the award and the senior red blood cell congratulates him before telling the audience to follow Sec 1's footsteps. After the ceremony ends, Sec 2 watches Sec 1 get crowded by the other red blood cells when 2 older red blood cells approach him and start talking about how such ceremonies are like hell for people like them who miss their quotas. They talk about how their efforts always go unacknowledged too, so they know how Sec 2 feels and he should come with them to a place that will give them a boost. He wonders what kind of place they are referring to, but he still leaves after rejecting their offer, and they talk about how Sec 2 is just like them, so he is bound to come to them one day. After a while, Sec 1 and 2 head towards the sebaceous gland to deliver oxygen, and Sec 2 tells him not to slow down because of him because he is the top rookie, but Sec 1 replies that he was never aiming to be the top rookie, so Sec 2 gets angry at him for acting like such a wannabe Sigma Chad. They pass by the hair cells area where they notice how most of the hair has disappeared and how the hair matrix cells seem extremely down too, so they go to talk to him where they learn that the body is feeling a lot of stress due to which they are losing a lot of hair. They ask him for directions and arrive at a long staircase, so they start carrying the boxes, but Sec 2 has a harder time holding on. Sec 1 offers to help, but Sec 2 angrily rejects him, so they continue walking up the stairs when an ROS explosion occurs below them and they start running from it. They finally arrive at their destination where the sebaceous gland cell tells them that it is his last day and his job was to store sebum here, but now that he has a sufficient amount of sebum, he will explode himself along with the sebum bag to spread the sebum across the body to help it. He tells them to leave because it's time for him to explode, so they step out, but an ROS explosion also occurs when he explodes himself. Sec 2 realizes that the explosion occurred from the oxygen that he delivered, and the whole area begins to stink because the ROS oxidized the acid released by the sebaceous gland, which is also known as body odor due to aging. They run away from the smell while Sec 2 blames himself for delivering an ROS again, which ruined the life work of the sebaceous gland cell. Sec 1 tries to tell him how it's not his fault, but Sec 2 tells him to stay away from him because he will only drag a role model like Sec 1 down. The 2 older red blood cells approach Sec 2 again and he accepts their offer this time, so they go to the small intestine where they get drowned in caffeine and arginine that the body gets from energy drinks, which gives them a mental and physical boost which they use to deliver more oxygen. Sec 1 meets Sec 2 again after some time and mentions how Sec 2 has been on a roll recently, so Sec 2 thanks the caffeine and arginine for that, but Sec 1 comments that it has been helping him too, but he does not like it because it makes him lose all his energy after the effects were down. Sec 2 comments that he should get drowned in more of it at that time, and the body suddenly drinks another energy drink which makes it rain caffeine and arginine again, so Sec 1 comments that there must be something bad about it because it is too good to be true, but Sec 2 mocks him for acting like a role model. They arrive at the nasal cavity where an explosion occurs, which is a nosebleed due to the excessive arginine intake, and Sec 1 manages to save himself from getting sucked into the hole, but Sec 2 loses all his strength as the caffeine effects were down. He loses all hopes, but Sec 1's speech about how Sec 2 is his precious bestie gives him the strength to grab Sec 1's hand, so they manage to avoid death and Sec 2 stops taking caffeine and arginine afterwards. Hack 1 takes her minions to the lower region of the body and she tells them that the body hasn't slept in 2 days, but still it isn't moving, due to which there might be some problem. They all arrive at the legs to discover that there is a huge pool in which a lot of red blood cells have fallen down. In the meanwhile, Sec 1 delivers oxygen to a side cell and he tells the lady that he has gotten a top rookie award. She tells him that he refuses to acknowledge him and that she has seen too many rookies who get full of themselves and start slacking off. He then runs off and meets up with Sec 2, who looks refreshed now. Soon there is a carbon monoxide attack, due to which they both run away to get away, and they discuss that lately it has become difficult to deliver oxygen. A senior spots them and comments that both of them seem manlier now. All of a sudden it starts to rain alcohol, so they all decide to head to the liver to detoxify themselves. To their surprise, they find that a lot of places in the liver have been shut down, and they then go inside. A weak-looking hepatocyte greets them and she apologizes to them for the shabby environment. She explains that due to the recent alcoholism of the body, there has been an increase in triglycerides, due to which a lot of functions of the liver have become impaired. If the liver keeps deteriorating like this, it can lead to cirrhosis or liver cancer as well. She becomes all woozy before she can do anything else, and a red blood cell calls out the others to come urgently because there has been a shortage in red blood cells. Sec 1 tells the hepatocyte to take care of herself, and they all run back to the body to take care of the deliveries. They both reach the calf after much struggle and whining, and Sec 1 reminds his friend that the trip back to the body will be much easier since the calf muscles can help push all the red blood cells back into the body. Just as they prepare to head back, some senior cells stop them, and one of them taunts Sec 2 about having fun with caffeine. Sec 1 tells them that they should let them do their work even if they want to act like useless wusses. The seniors let them go, and they begin making the journey back to the body via the calf muscle. Surprisingly, the journey back is even more tiring because of lack of support from calf muscles, plus due to dehydrated blood vessels, and they both wonder why the calf muscles aren't working properly. Suddenly the blood vessel collapses in front of them, and they discover that a bunch of cells are lying inside, which means that there is a blood clot in the calf. The situation seems like the worst case scenario, and suddenly the same senior from before pushes Sec 1 inside. Sec 2 manages to grab him, and he barely hangs on the wall of the blood vessel while their senior kicks on his hand to make him fall. The good-for-nothing wusses make some more fun of them and walk away. Just when Sec 2's is about to fall, Hack 1 arrives and catches him. She helps the two cells up and then goes with them up the calf. She explains to them that there are many blood clots in the leg because the body hasn't moved in a while, and that the body has also been consuming too much alcohol the past week. Suddenly the calf muscles start to work again, and this increases the blood pressure. The blood clot also rises from the leg and starts to move upwards due to the high blood pressure, and the gang barely manages to avoid a collision by running into a side capillary. Hack 1 comments that the blood clot can lodge into any organ, which is dangerous, and Sec 1 declares that they should do something to avoid it. The blood clot rushes up towards the pulmonary artery, and it crushes everything that comes in its way. The clot finally reaches the pulmonary artery and collides against the entrance. The cell gang try to unclog the artery, and Sec 1 notices that the senior bullies have also been rolled inside the blood clot. The senior comments that the oxygen cannot be transported inside the lungs now that the artery is blocked, and suddenly an emergency gets announced in the whole body. The clogging of the pulmonary artery causes pulmonary embolism, and as a result slowly the other body parts get less oxygen, due to which the body starts to develop hypoxia. The headquarters supervisor wonders what to do, and Hack 1 tells the red cells that they cannot do anything to help. Sec 1 gets an idea to transport oxygen to lungs through the bronchial arteries, and he proposes that even though bronchial arteries are much thinner than lung arteries, they should still make an effort to save the lung cells. He takes a group of red blood minions with him to another site where they reach the bronchial arteries opening. Since the bronchial arteries are rarely used, they seem very cramped, and a lot of cells hesitate to enter the den of darkness, but Sec 1 encourages them. Soon they all start to move towards the lungs one by one through the bronchial arteries. At the pulmonary artery site, the blood clot finally dissolves, and everyone rushes inside to help out the lung cells. They think that the lung cells have expired, but to their surprise one lung cell informs them that a few red cells managed to bring oxygen inside, which saved the day. Sec 1 also arrives at the site, and soon an ample amount of oxygen gets delivered to the lung cells, due to which the lungs start to function normally once again. Hack 1 appreciates Sec 1 for putting in so much effort, and they both creepily smile at each other. Later, Hack 1 takes a walk through the body and discovers that she cannot find any white blood cells anywhere. Sec 1 meets up with one of his seniors and tells him that he has to make a round in the lower region. The senior reminds him that his generation has to work hard to support the body in the future, and they both reach the PP area where the corpora is present. Sec 1 comments that there have not been any erections after the last dramatic incident, and his senior explains that the blood vessels are constricted due to stress, due to which not much blood flows to the PP area. He even comments that he remembers when the body used to have an erection every day in the morning, and just then a bunch of ugly-looking worms flow inside the body. The senior tells Sec 1 to ignore the ringworms, which are pretty much harmless and which invade through the skin's cuticles and cause itching. They wonder why the ringworms have flown inside to the testes since the white blood cells should be eliminating them. Sec1 arrives inside and notices that there are very few sperm cells present compared to before. The Sertoli cell explains to him that the body has been smoking and drinking a lot due to which it cannot produce many sperm cells and that ultimately it won't be able to produce descendants if it remains in this condition. Sec1 gloomily goes back on his way, and on the way he meets up with Sec2, who seems to be full of energy. Sec1 thinks that Sec2 might have taken another energy drink, but Sec2 denies his allegation. Suddenly Hack1 appears and she asks the cells whether they have seen any white blood cells around. They tell her that they haven't, and she tells them that the body is short on white blood cells. The headquarters minions discuss that due to the recent battles, the body has a very low count of white cells, and Hack1 advises the red cells to remain vigilant. She runs away and Sec1 goes back to thinking about the future of the body. They both arrive at the lungs where they find that the new red blood cells are being trained. They become happy to see that they have finally become senior, but again they notice that there are very few new blood cells, and they conclude that the body must be producing very little red blood cells due to excessive drinking. The newbies spot Sec1 and some of them rush to meet him since they have heard about an infamous rookie who is really good at his work. They fangirl over Sec1 and their supervisor asks Sec1 to show them the work in the field by acting as their mentor. Sec1 agrees and he takes a bunch of them to the blood vessels to train them. He shows them how to pass through the thin capillaries and how to move upwards from the lower regions by making sure that they don't lose the oxygen. He even runs down to retrieve some oxygen and guides them how to deliver oxygen to each cell. He also gets yelled at by a few body cells due to the slow delivery, and the rookies apologize to him for causing such delay. To compensate for the slow deliveries, he takes the oxygen from the rookies and makes multiple deliveries himself because suffering is his passion. After they are done with their rounds, the rookies keep buttering him by giving him compliments, and one of the rookies notices a receipt in his pocket. He tells them that he forgot to get the receipt stamped from the foot area, which means that he has to go again, and Sec1 offers to make the round in his stead. He takes the receipt and heads to the foot, but he starts to feel tired on the way. Sec2 meets up with him and Sec1 reminds him that their seniors used to push them around a lot, so he wants to do better with his juniors. Sec1 then goes on his way and Sec2 decides to follow him when he notices his tired expression. They both reach the foot area, which is filthy and filled with humidity. A group of ringworms attack them, and as always Hack1 appears to save the day. She slices through the slithering disgusting worms and tells the boys that the worms are a symptom of the athlete's foot disease, which is caused by the invasion of ringworms inside the body through the skin cuticles. The ringworms start to swarm around her, and finally 2 more white blood cells arrive to support her. They all take on the ringworms, but the worms keep coming at them from everywhere. Just when Hack1 is about to become history, water rushes inside from the outside, which takes a lot of ringworms with it. Suddenly the chemical called butenaphene hydrochloride appears from the outside and eliminates all the ringworms. The white blood cells also get relieved, and the headquarters supervisor issues an order that the white blood cells should take out the remaining ringworms in the body as well. The announcement gets made and the white blood cells get up to take out the remaining ringworms in the testes and the scalp. Sec1 recalls his life mission as well, which is to deliver oxygen, and once again he starts crazily transporting oxygen everywhere. He even collides with some killer T cells and drops some oxygen on the way. The rookies spot him and he yells at them to get back to work. They remind him that he told them to take it easy, but he keeps ranting about how the body is declining because of them. Sec2 arrives and tells him to relax since he seems exhausted, but Sec1 just tells him to leave him alone. Sec2 reminds him that he also took care of him during the energy drink incident, so he will also not back down. He drags Sec1 to another part of the body and tells him to pretend that he is working. They both lazily roam around the body, and Sec1 becomes angry when he realizes that they are slacking off. Sec2 then preaches to him that one cell cannot do everything and that he should rest once in a while because the body keeps moving and working even without him. A few days later, they meet again and Sec2 mentions how Sec1 looks a lot better now, and Sec1 thanks him for saving him from self-destructing that day. Sec1 sees one of the juniors that recently joined them, which makes him recall how he lashed out the other day on that junior red blood cell, so he goes to apologize to him, but the junior begins apologizing first for being so relaxed while Sec1 was trying so hard to save the body. Sec1 apologizes in return for lashing out on him, and suddenly another red blood cell hurriedly tells them that there was an emergency summon to all the free red blood cells to carry all the oxygen they can to the stomach. Sec1 and 2 arrive at the stomach and they talk about how it's a dangerous place because they will turn into mush too if they fall in the acid, which is why they are glad that they did not bring the juniors with them. The gastric chief cell yells at them to gather up, and he tells all the red blood cells that they are currently in the most dangerous place in the body because an ulcer has developed from where the acid is leaking out because the wall of mucus protecting the stomach has been breached. He explains that the stomach needs a lot of oxygen right now because it has been unable to digest food due to stress and low oxygen, and that the cells that can repair the mucus wall need a lot of oxygen too, otherwise the acid will penetrate the serosa wall too, which will cause the stomach to melt, so they need to prevent that from happening by delivering as much oxygen as possible. Majority of the red blood cells assume that the gastric chief cell is just bluffing to make them work harder, but Sec1 says that the chief cell is not the type to play around like that, and he deduces that the shortage of red blood cells must be due to the ulcer from where the gastric acid is leaking, which is eating away the red blood cells. Sec2 gets scared after hearing this, and they hear an announcement that the gastric acid is penetrating area C13, so they look at which area they are in, which makes the geniuses realize that they are in the same area. The roof near them suddenly falls down along with gastric acid and starts eroding 2 other red blood cells, whom the chief gastric cell narrowly saves their bodies from disappearing. The sub-chief gastric cells appear behind him and close the fallen roof using mucus, which allows the platelets to patch up the wounds. The chief cell tells Sec1 and 2 that the alcohol, stress, smoking and the bad diet is what caused the wall of mucus that protects the stomach to get reduced so much, and Sec1 questions if ulcer was also caused due to this, so the chief replies that the reason behind the ulcer is something else. He tells them that they are free to leave if they don't want to die because they might not get a peaceful death just like the other 2 red blood cells. Sec2 runs away after apologizing, and the chief remarks that having such a coward here will only hinder them, but Sec1 thinks about how Sec2 has always been with him, so he will surely come back. Sec2 goes to hide in a capillary, but he sees the white blood cells going towards the stomach, which makes him wonder what they are doing there, and he suddenly feels tremors in the body. Another wall near Sec1 breaks, and the headquarters report that the wall of mucus is thinning out due to alkaline ammonia, and inflammation is about to occur, while the chief looks toward the stomach thinking that the tremors must be because of him. The red blood cells rush in hordes to deliver as much oxygen as possible, and Sec1 falls down on the ground due to the tremors, but Sec2 appears out of nowhere to help him out. The headquarters report how the ulcer has reached the proper muscular layer, and Sec2 notices something moving the gastric acid, which turns out to be a giant germ. The chief tells them that it's the reason behind the ulcer, and the white blood cells start attacking the germ while Sec1 and 2 prepare to deliver more oxygen through the falling vessel. Some gastric acid comes out of the ground, which burns Sec1's leg a little, but he still decides to continue running, and Hack1 tries to kill the germ, but it gets up again. The tremors start getting even worse as the germ crashes against the walls, and Sec1 and 2 run as the ground behind them collapses, but Sec1 falls down due to the injury, so Sec2 throws him away from the hall but starts falling instead. Sec1 tries to grab him, but it fails, and the chief pulls Sec1 away from the hole so the platelets can close the hole. Sec1 tries to stop them in the hopes that Sec2 must be alive, but the chief throws him to the wall after telling him to accept the reality. Sec1 recalls all the moments he had with Sec2 and cries his heart out while the body takes clarithromycin, which defeats the germ, but the chief says that the situation in the stomach won't change until the body does not change its habits. The white blood cells pass by Sec1, so they try to talk to him, but he does not respond, and he shuts himself in afterwards while deciding that he has had enough of everything. He blames himself for Sec2's death, thinking that Sec2 would have survived if he had turned back when his leg got burned. Hack1 thinks about how Sec1 was not responding the other day, and she notices the other cells talking about the waste being produced to the bad diet of the body, along with the increasing population of fat cells that cause obesity. Some cells also complain about the long work hours, which is due to the body sleeping very less, and an announcement is made which tells the white blood cells to head towards the left big toe where bacteria has been detected. Hack1 starts rushing towards the left toe, and she meets the other white blood cells on the way, so they head towards their destination together, where they notice a huge germ wreaking havoc. The headquarters has a hard time identifying the type of germ, and the memory cell, which holds the data about everything, reveals that this is the first time they have encountered a bacteria like this, so they do not have any information on it. The white blood cells are ordered to phagocytosis, which means to engulf the bacteria to break it down, while the macrophages are ordered to develop the antigen, so Hack1 bites it but does not feel anything while the macrophage fails to break it down, and the headquarters initiate battle formation 1. All the units are ordered to go to the left toe to defeat the bacteria no matter how much damage they have to suffer, so the white blood cells launch a full-scale attack using guns and RPGs. Sec1 notices the commotion as the other cells evacuate, so he steps out of his apartment and walking toward the commotion. A cell asks him why she isn't seeing Sec2 anymore and mentions how Sec2 was so proud of him, so he runs away after saying that he could not save him. At the spleen that filters the blood, an old red blood cell is deemed unfit for work, so it is removed, and Sec1 asks to be removed too because he cannot work anymore, so he does not deserve to live. The manager of the spleen, called the Red Pulp, checks his information and learns that he is fine now, so he tells Sec1 to get back to work. He starts talking about how a precious friend of his died because of him and begs the red pulp to end his life, but the red pulp yells at him that this isn't the place where useless red blood cells are removed. He shouts how the spleen is the resting place of all the proud red blood cells that carried on their duties till the end, and he should get up to work if someone died because of him. On the other side, the white blood cells continue to attack the germ while the headquarters learn that the damage will reach a lot more areas soon, and one of the cells notices a uric level in the left toe which makes him realize that it is not a germ. He tells everyone it is a crystallized uric acid which they have been attacking as a germ, which leads to gout, which occurs when the crystallized uric acid is attacked by the white blood cells, leading to severe inflammation along with severe pain. Hack 1 falls down in shock over how she was actually harming the body instead of protecting it, and Sec 1 appears out of nowhere before saying that the body won't be able to realize their pain unless they make it suffer a bit. He goes crazy and begins hitting the ground with a pipe while telling the body to fix its habits, and the other cells start rioting too after seeing him. The pipe in his hand breaks, so he starts using his fists, and Hack 1 stops him by tightly hugging him. She consoles him by talking about how she has lost hopes for this body many times, but acting out like this will not change things, and they need to continue taking care of the body to honor the sacrifices of the friends who lost their lives for this body. She tells him that it's not his fault that Sec 2 died and that he should stop trying to carry everything alone, which reminds him of how Sec 2 used to say the same. He begins crying on his knees while wishing for the body to hear their cries, and soon the headquarters report how the ingested colchicine is treating the inflammation, but things cannot get better unless the uric levels drop, otherwise such inflammation will continue to occur. The cells hope that the body can start focusing on its health more, and one cell wonders who the real villain is that has been giving the body so much psychological stress. The junior red blood cell goes on an oxygen delivery along with his mentor, but he trips accidentally and drops all the oxygen on the ground. The mentor thinks about how they are very understaffed these days, and it is going to take a while until the new rookies can be useful. He notices a red blood cell hat on the ground and almost looks into the vessel next to him when his junior calls for him to help with the oxygen he dropped. He goes to help his junior while the multiple dead red blood cells in the other vessel go unnoticed. A few days go by and Sec 1 finally gets ready to start delivering oxygen again. Countless red blood cells move through the heart while the senior who taught Sec 1 complains about how they have to punch in their timestamps every time after a full trip around the body, which the higher-ups probably don't even check. He says that they don't even get any breaks, and the only time they can rest is when the heart comes to a stop during the beats. He also mentions how the blood vessels are now in the worst shape he has ever seen, which is making it very hard to deliver oxygen due to the rugged pathways. Another red blood asks him about why they have not been seeing Sec 1 these days, and the senior says that he has not been able to get in touch with him, so he most probably might not be coming back to work, even though he looked very promising, even winning the top rookie award. They notice how the new rookies are still very incompetent, and Sec 1 greets him from behind before apologizing for disappearing. The senior tells him that they are glad to have him back and that he is now a full-fledged red blood cell. The rookie also rushes over to greet Sec 1 and says that he is very happy to see Sec 1 coming back to work because he can now work under Sec 1 again. They go on a delivery together and notice how the platelets are doing a lot of work, due to which the vessels are a little tight, but another red blood cell starts arguing with the platelets over how they are making it hard to deliver the oxygen. Another platelet argues that they are just doing their work, which has been increased due to the excessive cholesterol and plaque which are breaking off all over the vessels, so they need to fix it no matter what. Sec 1 talks about how both of them are not really wrong, and the junior tells him that their next delivery is the stomach, which shocks Sec 1, so the junior asks him what's wrong, so he just tells him to be careful during the delivery because the stomach is very clogged up. They arrive at the stomach and Sec 1 recalls how Sec 2 died in front of his eyes after falling into the gastric acid, so he starts having a panic attack, but the chief gastric cell starts yelling at them to hurry up with the oxygen delivery. Sec 1 recalls the lecture he got from the chief before when Sec 2 died, and the junior goes up to the chief to introduce himself, but he gets scolded for talking too much. Sec 1 takes the junior away and reveals that the same thing happened to him the first time he came here because of the orientation video they saw, in which the chief talked wanting to know the name of every cell he works with. He also mentions how the video is extremely old, and they discuss how they need to make a new video now, so the chief yells at them again, but he takes Sec 1's name, which shocks him. The two deliver oxygen around the whole body as Sec 1 decides to give it his all once again, and the white blood cells continue to fight against the germs, but the roof begins to collapse. Hack 1 narrowly saves the other white blood cell from dying and wonders what is going to happen to this collapsing body, while the other two cross a densely obstructed coronary artery. They discuss how it's a very serious problem, and they notice that the artery collapsed ahead, so they ask a senior red blood cell what happened, so he explains that the plaque collapsed, which is heavily blocking the artery, so the platelets are now trying to fix it. Sec 1 tells the junior to get ready because they will still be delivering the oxygen through the collapsed path, and the headquarters report how the blood pressure is rising, but they are holding on due to the few red blood cells that are still passing through. Sec 1 and the junior move towards the heart, but the artery collapses once again and Sec 1 manages to save the junior, but they notice how the pathway has been completely blocked now. They notice another red blood cell under the rubble, so they try to save him, but they fail and the cells in the headquarters declare that they are undergoing a heart attack right now. Sec 1 grabs the oxygen and tells the junior to follow him while thinking about how the body will die if the heart does not get the oxygen. The whole body starts shaking and the higher-ups discuss how the time has come, so they need to perform their final task now. The two red blood cells manage to reach the heart, but the oxygen they brought is nowhere near enough to fully resolve the situation. An announcement begins playing throughout the whole body. Big screens appear throughout the whole body in which the higher-ups thank all the cells for working so hard up till now and reveal that they will no longer have to work. They reveal to all the cells how a serious incident occurred within the arteries due to which the oxygen supply to the body has stopped, and they have overcome many threats before due to efforts of all the cells, but that this is the final straw because the body will die today. Cells start rioting throughout the whole body, blaming the higher-ups for not resolving the situation beforehand, so the higher-ups bow to everyone while apologizing for not being able to fix it. The heart stops beating, but Sec 1 does not give up, so he starts running to find more oxygen. Hack 1 notices that the body's functions are slowly closing down while the lungs stop receiving more oxygen and the gastric acid turns cold too. The cells at the headquarters await further orders, but their leader tells them that there is nothing they can do now, and little begins disappearing throughout the whole body, one by one. Sec 1 thinks about how it is very wrong to suddenly tell them not to work anymore, and he continues running as the lights behind him die down one after another. The blood cells surround the blockage in front of the heart and they discuss how they have oxygen, but still they cannot take it to the heart. Some cells give up entirely because they think that the body is going to die, and suddenly the body starts to experience some jolts. The cells gather around to witness that there is a crack in the ribs that are protecting the internal organs, and Sec 1 joins his junior. As the body gets a jolt, the heart starts to light up with each jolt, and Sec 1 realizes that the body is actually trying to live. He gets up and heads to the door, where he tells the other cells that the blood flow is soon going to be restored due to the external chest compressions, so they should all be ready to deliver oxygen as quickly as possible. The others don't agree with him since they think the body is dying, and one senior even taunts him that they all don't want to work anymore in a code black environment since the body is a pathetic little wuss who cannot take care of himself. Sec 1 doesn't listen to his whining, and he instead yells out loud that he wants to work because he can and because he wants to die as a corporate slave. He even yells at the heart to keep beating, and suddenly the heart starts to flicker again. The body starts shaking, and at the headquarters they get a bit of the signals back. Just when they think that the body might be getting its pulse back, it gets reported that the body is in a convulsive stage due to which it's getting some energy temporarily. The body keeps getting the jolts, and throughout the body everyone keeps chanting and praying for the body to live. The swarm of red blood cells also pray for the heart to start beating, and suddenly a wave of electricity passes through the heart. The body gets electric shocks from the outside to make it work, and finally the heart starts to beat again. The headquarters get a clear signal as operations resume once again, but the coronary artery remains blocked by the blood clot, due to which there is a high risk that cardionecrosis will spread in the body because of lack of oxygen. The blood cells try to clear the gigantic blood clot, and all of a sudden a metal tube rushes inside the vessel. It stops near the clot and a balloon expands from the tip of the tube. The tube then goes away, leaving behind an artificial stent which opens up the blocked artery. The blood flow restores to normal, and all the blood cells rush inside to deliver oxygen to the heart as if their life depends on it. The supervisor in the headquarters comments that the oxygen needs to be delivered urgently to all other cells as well, or else the body will start undergoing necrosis soon. The red blood cells start to meet up inside the heart and they reload on their stock. Finally, they all go on their way to quickly take the oxygen to different years. Sec 1's group reaches the stomach, where the fatso stomach supervisor looks like he has passed away, but he opens his eyes and jokes with the red blood cells that they are really late. He then orders his minions to quickly take the oxygen, and the cells go on their way. Soon everyone starts getting oxygen one by one as red blood cells carry out their most hectic task ever. The liver gets its share of oxygen, and Sec 1 delivers oxygen to the headquarters, where the supervisor thanks all of them on behalf of the whole body. The hair cells argue that their share of oxygen can be delivered to someone else as they are not a crucial organ, but the rookie cell assures them that they will deliver oxygen to everyone, including puny balding hair cells. Soon the kidney cells also get their oxygen, and Sec 1 delivers oxygen to a side cell lady who always used to lash out at him. She thanks him in tears and even apologizes to him for always being so cranky. The situation soon starts to get better as cells get their nourishment back, and soon the body gets its lightning back as well. Sek1 gets all senty as he thinks about how he came into the body as a rookie and how he had to face so many troubles every day. He recalls the many times when his life was in danger and how he even lost sight of who he was on the way. He then thinks about how he lost so many of his friends and seniors along the way and how he even bailed on his job but still got back on his 2 red feet. He realizes that he can hold his head high now even though he is still a cocky little thing and do his work with pride. He roams in the body and sees that the situation has improved a lot. He then comes across Hack1 fighting a germ, and afterwards she informs him that she was just combating a general flora. They both discuss that the body has improved a lot due to no carbon monoxide lately and less stress, due to which the blood vessels are much cleaner. She tells him that he seems like a grown-up cell now, and he tells her that it's good to hear such words from a cell that he has always looked up to. Of course she gets embarrassed to hear this, and one of his juniors asks him for his help, so he goes with him to deliver oxygen as usual. Afterwards Hack1 and Sek1 are together when suddenly a tube bursts forward from the outside and starts to suck in all the cells. Sek1 holds on to Hack1, but soon an oxygen cylinder hits him and he gets pulled in with the current too. His junior wakes him up in a dirty-looking subclavian vein, and they both comment that the vein seems to be in a worse situation compared to before. Suddenly, a germ appears from behind and they both realize that they may have been shifted into another different code black body. Will they be able to carry on their duties this time, or will they finally pass away? Comment your thoughts below and make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more.